If this is your first time here, this is the channel where you don't just memorize vocabulary lists. You learn how fluent, confident English speakers actually sound in real situations, at work, in interviews, in meetings, in the moments that matter most. Today's lesson is built around one simple but powerful idea. You can know a word perfectly. You can spell it, define it, even use it correctly in a sentence. But if you say it with the wrong rhythm, the wrong stress, or a shaky, uncertain tone, the person listening to you will hear hesitation before they hear your meaning. And that hesitation, even for half a second, can quietly undercut everything you're trying to say. In this video, you're going to learn over 60 advanced English words and expressions at the C1 to C2 level, all built around one theme: how to sound composed, credible, and self-assured in the exact moments when your English is being judged the most. We're going to walk through real workplace scenes, real conversations, real pronunciation patterns. So, by the end of this lesson, you won't just know these words. You'll be able to say them the way a confident native speaker would. Before we dive in, let me explain quickly why we're learning vocabulary this way. Instead of just handing you a list of 70 words to memorize, here's the truth. Your brain doesn't store isolated words very well. If I just tell you the word unflappable and its definition, you'll forget it by tomorrow. But if I show you a person in a real situation, a meeting where everything is going wrong, and that person stays calm, and someone later describes them as unflappable, your brain attaches that word to an image, a feeling, a story. That's how it becomes permanent. So every single word today comes wrapped inside a scene. You'll hear it in context first, then we'll break down what it means in simple English. Then you'll hear it used naturally in a full sentence. And for many of these words, you'll also hear a short dialogue between two people so you can hear exactly how it sounds in real conversation. Some of these dialogues will pause and invite you to answer out loud before I give you the model response. So keep your voice ready, because this is not a video where you just sit and listen. This is a video where you speak. Let's begin with our first block of vocabulary, all connected to first impressions and how you come across, before you've even finished your first sentence. Picture this. You walk into a small conference room for a job interview. There are 3 people sitting across the table, and you have exactly one chance to open your mouth and set the tone for the next 30 minutes. The first word I want to give you today is the word articulate. If you say someone is articulate, you mean they can express their thoughts clearly and effectively, with well-chosen words and a natural flow. No stumbling, no filler words piling up. It's an upgrade from just saying someone speaks well. Listen to it in a sentence. She gave an articulate explanation of why the project had been delayed, and The client actually thanked her for the clarity. Notice the stress pattern here. Tis ik, you late. The stress falls on the second syllable, tc. If you put the stress in the wrong place, native speakers might not immediately understand you. So let's practice it together. Say it slowly with me. Articulate. Now a little faster, with the stress clearly on that second syllable. Articulate. Good. Now here's a short dialogue so you can hear this word alive in conversation. Imagine two colleagues standing by a coffee machine after a big client presentation. Colleague A. How did it go in there? I heard the client asked some really tough questions. Colleague B. Honestly, Sarah handled it beautifully. Every answer was so articulate. You could tell she'd prepared for every possible angle. Colleague A. That doesn't surprise me. She always sounds so composed, even under pressure. Colleague B. Exactly. And composed brings us straight into our next word. To be composed means to stay calm, controlled, and settled, especially in a stressful or high-pressure situation. Think of the opposite. Someone who is flustered, whose hands shake, whose voice speeds up. Composed is the picture of steady calm on the outside, even if there's some nervous energy underneath. Here's an example sentence. Even when the microphone stopped working in the middle of her speech, she remained completely composed and simply continued speaking louder until it was fixed. Let's work on the pronunciation here, because this word hides a small trap. Composed is not pronounced with a hard S sound in the middle. It's composed with a soft Z sound, and the stress falls on the second syllable. Repeat after me slowly. Composed, now at natural speed. Composed. One more time. In a full sentence, she stayed composed. She stayed composed. Let's add a third word to this opening trio. Poised. To be poised means to have a graceful, self-assured, balanced presence, almost like your whole body and voice are working together to project calm confidence. It's often used to describe someone right before or during a big moment. For example, she walked onto the stage looking completely poised, as if she'd given this exact talk 100 times before. Notice something interesting about the pronunciation of poised. It rhymes with noised, but many learners want to add an extra syllable. It's one clean syllable, poised. Not poised, just poised. Try it, poised. Good. Now here's something I want you to notice about all three words we've just learned: articulate, composed, and poised. In natural, connected speech, native speakers almost never pronounce these words separately, word by word, like robots. They link them together. Listen to this sentence at natural speed. She was articulate and composed, completely poised under pressure. Do you hear how articulate and almost blends into articulate? How the D at the end of composed barely touches the and that follows. This is called connected speech, and it's one of the biggest reasons. Advanced learners still sound slightly unnatural, even when their grammar and vocabulary are excellent. Let's slow it down first, then speed it up so your ear and your mouth both get the pattern. Slowly. She was articulate and composed, now at natural speed. She was articulate, composed. One more time, even more naturally. She was articulate, composed, completely poised under pressure. Now, let's move to a word that describes the opposite side of confidence, because understanding contrast makes vocabulary stick faster. The word is flustered. To be flustered means to become confused, nervous, and unable to think clearly. It's usually because something unexpected just happened. Imagine you're mid-sentence in an important meeting and someone interrupts you with a hard question you didn't prepare for. If you lose your train of thought and your face goes red, you're flustered. Example, sentence. He got a little flustered when the interviewer asked a question that wasn't on the list he'd prepared for, but he recovered quickly. That phrase, recovered quickly, is actually going to become important later in this lesson, because one of the biggest secrets to sounding confident isn't never making mistakes. It's how smoothly you recover mistakes. Recover from them. Let's practice flustered. The stress is on the first syllable. Flustered. Say it with me. Flustered. Now, in a sentence, don't let one hard question fluster you. Don't let one hard question fluster you. Here's a mini dialogue to bring this contrast to life. Picture a busy newsroom right before a live broadcast. Rotor, are you nervous? This is your first live segment. Praxer, a little, but I'm not going to let it show. I've seen people get completely flustered on air, and it just makes the whole segment feel shaky. Reorder. So, what's your plan? Producer. Stay composed, keep my voice steady, and if I mess up a word, I just keep going like nothing happened. Viewers forgive small stumbles. They don't forgive panic. That word, stumble, deserves its own moment. To stumble, in this context, means to hesitate or make a small mistake while speaking, almost tripping over your own words for a second. It's actually a completely normal, human thing, and one of the biggest myths about fluent English speakers is that they never stumble. They do. The difference is what happens in the half second after. Example, even experienced public speakers stumble over a word sometimes. What matters is that they don't let it throw them off track. Let's pronounce it together. Stumble. The B is barely pronounced, almost silent, so it sounds more like stumble. Try it. Stumble. Now, let's practice a real recovery phrase you can actually use the next time you stumble over a word in English. Instead of going silent or apologizing 5 times, a confident speaker just says, "Sorry, let me rephrase that," and continues smoothly. Practice that phrase with me now, with a natural, confident tone, not an apologetic, quiet one. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Say it again, a little faster, like you're already moving on to your next sentence. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Let's step into our first full role play scenario of the lesson. Picture this scene clearly before we begin. You are sitting in a small, glass-walled meeting room on the 14th floor of an office building. Rain is quietly hitting the window. Across the table, your manager is reviewing a report you spent all week preparing. And in a few seconds, she's going to ask you to walk her through your main findings out loud, without notes. Your heart is beating a little faster than usual, but you know you're prepared. Let's begin, Alliger. Okay, walk me through your findings. What's the headline here? You pause and answer out loud now in your own words, imagining you're presenting quarterly sales data. Now let's switch roles. This time, you are the manager, and I will read the employee's part, and I want you to respond exactly like the confident manager we just talked about. Someone composed, articulate, unflappable. Amplic. I think there might be a problem with these numbers. I'm not totally sure the data from the Western region is accurate. You. Pause. Then respond as the calm, composed manager, asking a clarifying question. Great work. Whether your exact words matched mine or not doesn't matter here. What matters is that your voice stayed steady and you didn't freeze. That's the entire point of this exercise. Let's introduce our next word. One that's especially useful in exactly this kind of workplace situation. Unflappable. This is a wonderful, almost playful sounding word for someone who simply cannot be shaken, no matter what chaos is happening around them. It's a step above composed. Composed means calm right now, but unflappable means calm as a personality trait, as a permanent quality. Example, even when the entire server crashed 5 minutes before the product launch, their lead engineer was completely unflappable, calmly directing the team like it was just another Tuesday. Let's break down the pronunciation. Unflappable. The stress is on the second syllable, fleap-pap, and that flap sound should be crisp and clear. Practice with me. Unflappable. One more time, a bit faster. Unflappable. Now, in a full sentence with natural rhythm, she's completely unflappable under pressure. She's completely unflappable under pressure. Now, let's talk about a word connected to unflappable, but slightly different in flavor. Unshakable. While unflappable focuses on staying calm during chaos, unshakable focuses more on the strength of your confidence or belief, something so solid that nothing can move it. You might say someone has unshakable confidence, or is an unshakable belief in their own abilities. Example, after years of practice, he walked into every negotiation with unshakable confidence, and clients could feel it immediately. Notice the connected speech here again. Unshakable confidence naturally blends together. The final L sound of unshakable, almost touching the C of confidence without a hard break. Practice it slowly first. Unshakable confidence. Now, at natural speed. Unshakable confidence. Let's move into a second theme now, closely related to our first. How you sound when things go slightly wrong. because here's something important. I want you to internalize today. Confidence in English isn't about perfection. It's about your relationship with your own mistakes. The word falter describes this beautifully. To falter means to hesitate or lose strength or momentum, especially in your voice or your resolve. Usually, just for a moment. You might say someone's voice faltered, meaning it shook slightly or lost its steadiness. Example sentence. Her voice faltered for just a second when she mentioned her father, but she took a breath and kept going. Let's pronounce this one carefully. Falter. The stress is on the first syllable, and the al sound is short, like in the word shall. Practice with me. Falter. Now, in a sentence. His voice didn't falter once during the entire speech. His voice didn't falter once during the entire speech. Here's a technique I want to teach you now that connects directly to everything we've just learned. And this is genuinely one of the most useful listening skills you can develop. When someone is speaking English quickly and naturally, especially in a real conversation, you will not catch every single word. This is true even for very advanced learners, and honestly, it's true even for native speakers listening to each other in noisy environments. The secret isn't to panic and try to replay every word in your head. The secret is to listen for the general idea, the gist, and respond naturally, using small reaction phrases that show you're following along even if you missed a detail. Phrases like, I see, that makes sense, right, and okay, got it, are incredibly powerful tools. They buy you a half second to process what you heard, and they keep the conversation moving forward instead of grinding to a halt while you mentally translate every word. Let's practice this right now with a fast listening exercise. I'm going to read a sentence at a natural, quick, native pace. Don't try to catch every word. Just try to catch the general topic and then respond with one of those reaction phrases. Ready? Here it comes. So basically what happened was the client pushed back the deadline again, which honestly kind of throws off everything we planned for next week. Now respond out loud with a natural reaction phrase, showing you understood the general idea even if you missed a word or two. Something like, right, that changes things. Or, I see, so we need to replan. Good. Let's do one more. Listen at natural speed. Yeah, I get why she's frustrated, but at the same time, we did give them plenty of warning about the schedule changing. Respond now with a natural reaction phrase. This skill, catching the gist and responding naturally, instead, is honestly one of the biggest differences between someone who sounds fluent and someone who sounds like they're still translating in their head, and someone who sounds like they're still translating in their head. Nice work so far. You've already learned 9 solid C1, C2 expressions and practiced 2 real listening and speaking techniques. That's real progress, and we're just getting started. Let's move into our next block of vocabulary now. Now, focused specifically on how confident people sound when they're explaining something complex, presenting an idea, or trying to persuade someone. The first word here is concise. If your explanation is concise, it's clear and gives only the necessary information without unnecessary details or repetition. This is the opposite of rambling. Example. The CEO appreciated how concise the report was. No fluff, just the key numbers and a clear recommendation. Let's pronounce it. Concise. The stress is on the second syllable, and that size part rhymes with nice. Practice with me. Concise. Now faster. Concise. In a sentence, keep your answer concise. Keep your answer concise. Next, the word eloquent. Someone eloquent speaks in a way that is fluent, persuasive, and often beautifully phrased. This word carries a slightly more elevated, polished feeling than articulate. You might say someone gave an eloquent toast at a wedding, or an eloquent defense of their idea in a debate. Example, his eloquent closing argument left the entire courtroom in complete silence. Pronunciation. Eloquent. The stress is firmly on the first syllable. Practice with me. Eloquent. One more time. Eloquent. In a sentence, she's remarkably eloquent for someone so young. She's remarkably eloquent for someone so young. Now, persuasive. This one you likely already know at a basic level, but let's make sure your pronunciation matches native rhythm. Persuasive. The stress is on the second syllable, and that middle part sounds like sway, persuasive. Practice with me. Persuasive. Now let's connect these three words together in one fluent sentence, the way a native speaker actually would say them. So, with linking and natural rhythm rather than choppy, separated words. Listen first at a slower pace. His argument was concise, eloquent, and persuasive. Now at natural, connected speed. His argument was concise, eloquent, and persuasive. Try saying that full sentence with me now, matching the rhythm as closely as you can. Let's step into our second full role play of this lesson. Picture this scene. You're standing at the front of a small meeting room, laptop connected to a projector, about to pitch a new marketing idea to your team. Your manager and two colleagues are sitting there, coffee cups in hand, waiting for you to begin. Let's begin the scene, Dowager. All right, we've got 15 minutes. Walk us through it. You pause and speak out loud now, giving a 30-second pitch for any product or idea you like, trying to sound concise, eloquent, and persuasive. Now, let's do the role switch technique. Again, I'll play the skeptical colleague, and you respond as the confident presenter defending your idea. Colleague, I'm not totally convinced this will work with our current budget. You pause, then respond calmly and persuasively, defending your idea without getting defensive or flustered. That's exactly the kind of real, spontaneous practice that builds true fluency, not just vocabulary knowledge. Let's keep building. Now I want to introduce a word for a very specific, very valuable quality: candid. To be candid means to be honest and direct, saying what you truly think, even when it might be a little uncomfortable, but doing it with respect rather than harshness. Example: can I be candid with you for a second? I don't think this plan is going to work, and here's why. Let's pronounce it. Candid. Stress on the first syllable, short and clean. Practice with me. Candid. Now let's practice the exact phrase I just used, because it's genuinely one of the most useful phrases in professional English. One Pez, can I be candid with you for a second? This phrase signals honesty is coming, softens the moment, and sounds remarkably mature and confident. Practice it with me now, with a calm, respectful tone. Can I be candid with you for a second? One more time, a little more naturally, blending the words together. Can I be candid with you for a second? Related to candid is the word diplomatic, which describes the skill of being honest or handling a difficult situation without causing unnecessary conflict or hurt feelings. Someone diplomatic finds a way to say hard things gently. Example: she was diplomatic about the mistake, focusing on solutions instead of blame. Notice the pronunciation. Dip-lo-ma-ma-ik. The stress is on the third syllable. Mat. Practice with me. Diplomatic. Now, here's an interesting pair to notice. Candid and diplomatic aren't opposites. The strongest communicators are actually both at once. They tell the truth, but they deliver it with care. Let's practice that combined idea in one sentence. She was candid about the problem, but diplomatic in how she brought it up. Say that with me now, focusing on smooth linking between candid and about. Candid about. Candid about. Now the full sentence. She was candid about the problem, but diplomatic in how she brought it up. Let's pause here for a short breathing moment before we continue, because I want you to actually absorb what you've learned so far rather than just rushing forward. Close your eyes for just 5 seconds if you're somewhere safe to do so, and quietly repeat in your head or out loud the 3 words that felt the most useful to you personally from what we've covered. Take a breath. Good. Now let's keep moving, because we still have a lot of powerful vocabulary ahead of us, including how to talk about personality, how to handle networking and social situations with confidence, and one of the most important listening skills of all, shadowing. Let's shift now into vocabulary about personality and how people come across socially, because confidence isn't only about formal presentations. It's just as important in casual conversations, networking events, and everyday small talk. The first word here is approachable. If someone is approachable, they seem friendly, warm, and easy to talk to. People feel comfortable walking up and starting a conversation with them. Example: even though she's the CEO, she's incredibly approachable. She'll chat with anyone in the office kitchen. Pronunciation: approach, able. Stress on the second syllable, proach, which rhymes with coach. Practice with me, approachable. In a sentence, try to seem approachable at the networking event tonight. Try to seem approachable at the networking event tonight. Next word, personable. This describes someone pleasant and friendly in a way that makes people naturally like them, almost effortlessly. It's slightly different from approachable. Approachable. Approachable means people feel comfortable coming to you, while personable means people simply enjoy being around you. Example, he's so personable that clients often become personal friends after just a few meetings. Pronunciation, personable. Stress on the first syllable. Practice with me. Personable. Now, a full natural sentence connecting both words we just learned. She's approachable and personable, which makes her incredibly good at her job. Let's say that together, focusing on the smooth connection between approachable and approachable, then personable. Full sentence now. She's approachable, then personable, which makes her incredibly good at her job. Let's do a visualization before our next dialogue. Imagine a warm evening, string lights hanging above an outdoor rooftop terrace, the quiet hum of conversation, and clinking glasses around you. This is a professional networking event, and you've just walked up to a small group of people you don't know. Person A. Hi. I don't think we've met. I'm Maya. I work in product design. You. Pause and introduce yourself out loud now, imagining your own name and profession. Person A. Nice to meet you. So what brought you to this event tonight? You. Pause and answer. Naturally. Person A. That's really interesting. Honestly, most people at these things seem so guarded, but you're really easy to talk to. You. Pause and respond naturally, perhaps thanking them or asking a follow-up question. That kind of extended, multi-turn exchange is exactly what real networking conversations feel like. And now you have some genuine practice handling it. Let's add the word gregarious to your vocabulary now. Someone gregarious is very sociable, energetic in groups, and genuinely enjoys being around lots of people. Think of the person at a party who seems to know everyone and is having the time of their life. Example, he's naturally gregarious, always the one organizing group dinners and inviting new coworkers along. Pronunciation is tricky here, so let's slow down. Gregarious. The stress is on the second syllable, and that gar sounds like the word car with a G. Practice slowly with me. Gregarious. Now a bit faster. Gregarious. In a sentence, she's the most gregarious person on the team, always planning the next group outing. She's the most gregarious person on the team, always planning the next group outing. Now, the opposite quality, which is just as valuable in its own way. Reserved. Someone reserved is quieter, more private, and doesn't share their thoughts or emotions openly right away. But reserved does not mean unfriendly or unconfident. In fact, Some of the most confident people are quite reserved. They simply choose their words carefully. He's quite reserved at first. He's quite reserved at first, but once you get to know him, he's actually incredibly funny. Pronunciation. Resevered. Stress on the second syllable. The served part rhymes with curved. Practice with me. Reserved. Now let's connect gregarious and reserved in one contrasting sentence, because contrast is a powerful memory tool. Some people build confidence by being gregarious and outgoing, while others build it quietly, staying reserved but completely self-assured. Let's say that sentence together. At a natural pace. I want to introduce one more essential word here. Tactful. Being tactful means having sensitivity in dealing with people or difficult situations, especially in choosing your words carefully so you don't offend anyone. It connects closely to diplomatic, which we learned earlier, but tactful focuses specifically on word choice and timing. Example: she was tactful when she pointed out the typo, waiting until after the meeting instead of embarrassing him in front of everyone. Pronunciation. Tactful. Stress on the first syllable, short and clean. Practice with me. Tactful. In a sentence, try to be tactful when you give feedback. Try to be tactful when you give feedback. Let's do a quick self-practice exercise now, one that connects directly to real fluency outside of this video. I want you to look around wherever you currently are right now and describe one person you can see, or someone you know well, using at least two of the words we've learned today. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just speak it out loud. For example, you might say, my coworker is really approachable and gregarious. Everyone loves talking to her. Or, my brother is quite reserved, but he's incredibly articulate when he does speak up. Pause the video for a moment if you need to, and say your sentence out loud right now. Excellent work. You're building real, active vocabulary, not just passive recognition. And that's exactly the goal of this channel. We still have a lot ahead of us in this lesson, including deeper pronunciation work on connected speech and rhythm, a full role-play scenario about handling a mistake gracefully in front of your boss, vocabulary about resilience and recovering from setbacks, a dedicated shadowing practice section, and our final fluency round where we'll rapid-fire review everything you've learned today. If you're finding this valuable so far, this is a great moment to hit subscribe because we upload a new lesson just like this one every single day, and consistency is honestly the single biggest factor in how quickly your English improves. Let's keep going into the next part of today's lesson. Let's move now into a theme that ties everything together. How to talk about resilience, setbacks, and recovering gracefully. Because the truth is, even the most confident English speakers you admire still make mistakes. What separates them isn't a flawless track record. It's how they handle the moment right after something goes wrong. The first word here is resilient. Someone resilient recovers quickly from difficulties, setbacks, or challenges. They bend without breaking, and they come back stronger rather than staying knocked down. Example sentence. After the failed product launch, the team stayed remarkably resilient, regrouping within days to fix the issues and relaunch stronger than before. Let's work on the pronunciation, because this word has a small trap in it. Resilient. The stress is on the second syllable, and notice that the S in the middle actually sounds like a Z. Not resilient, spoken slowly and choppily, but resilient, smooth and connected. Practice with me. Now, a little faster. Resilient. In a full sentence, she's incredibly resilient. Nothing seems to keep her down for long. She's incredibly resilient. Nothing seems to keep her down for long. Next, recover, specifically in the sense of recovering from a mistake, an awkward moment, or a setback, not just from illness. To recover from a mistake means to return to your normal, confident state quickly after something goes wrong. Example, he recovered quickly from his slip of the tongue and continued the presentation without missing a beat. That phrase, without missing a beat, is a wonderful native expression meaning without any pause, or disruption at all, as if nothing happened. Let's practice it together. Without missing a beat. Say it again, faster and smoother. Without missing a beat. Now use it in a full sentence. She corrected the number and kept talking without missing a beat. She corrected the number and kept talking without missing a beat. Let's move to a phrase that's genuinely one of the most useful tools in this entire lesson. Brush it off. To brush something off means to treat a mistake, an insult, or a setback as unimportant and move past it quickly without letting it affect your mood or your momentum. Imagine someone laughs slightly at a small mistake you made in a meeting. A confident response is to simply brush it off rather than getting embarrassed or defensive. Example, when a colleague made a snide comment about her accent, she just brushed it off and kept presenting like it never happened. Let's pronounce it naturally with connected speech. Brush it off at natural speed blends into something like brush it off. Almost one flowing sound. Practice slowly first. Brush it off. Now, at natural connected speed, brush it off. One more time in a full sentence. Natural speed. Just brush it off and keep going. Just brush it off and so keep going. Now let's build a full role-play scene around this exact idea, because I think this is one of the most valuable moments in today's lesson. Picture this scene clearly. You're in a one-on-one meeting with your boss. You've just realized, mid-sentence, that you gave her the wrong figure. You said the budget was $40,000, but it's actually $400,000. Your heart drops for a second. Let's begin the scene. Boss, wait, 40,000? That doesn't match what finance sent me. You, pause, then respond out loud, correcting yourself calmly and confidently without over-apologizing. Now, here's an important teaching moment. Notice that the confident response is not 5 apologies in a row. It's something short, direct, and forward moving. Something like, sorry, let me correct that. It's actually 400,000. And then continuing. Let's practice that exact recovery phrase together with a calm, composed tone, not a panicked one. Sorry, let me correct that. One more time, a bit smoother and faster. Sorry, let me correct that. Let's continue the role play. Switching roles now. This time, I'll play the employee making a mistake, and you respond as the calm, understanding boss, modeling the kind of composed diplomatic reaction we talked about earlier in this lesson. Employee, I'm so sorry. I think I sent you the wrong file. This is really embarrassing. You, pause, then respond as the calm boss, reassuring them briefly and moving the conversation forward. Wonderful. Notice how, in both directions of that role play, the confident response was short, warm, and forward moving, never dwelling on the mistake itself. That's a pattern worth internalizing deeply because it applies far beyond English practice. It applies to how you carry yourself in any professional situation, in any language. Let's add one more word to this section. Composure, the noun form of composed, which we learned earlier. Composure means the state of being calm and in control of your emotions, especially during a difficult or stressful moment. You might say someone kept their composure, or, even more impressively, regained their composure after a difficult moment. Example, for a second, her composure slipped when the numbers came up wrong on screen, but she regained it almost instantly and finished the presentation flawlessly. Let's pronounce it. Sewer. Stress on the second syllable, and that sure ending sounds soft, like jure. Practice with me, composure. Now, the two key phrases, keep your composure and regain your composure. Practice both with me now. Keep your composure, regain your composure. Excellent. Now let's shift gears and spend some focused time, specifically on pronunciation, connected speech, and rhythm, because this is genuinely one of the areas advanced learners neglect the most. You might have excellent grammar and a huge vocabulary, but if your rhythm sounds slightly robotic, word by word, native listeners will still perceive something as slightly off. Even if they can't quite explain what it is, let's start with sentence stress. In English, we don't stress every word equally. We stress the content words, the words that carry the most meaning, like nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and question words, while we relax and shorten the small grammar words, like is, are, to, a, the. Listen to this sentence with flat, equal stress on every word the way a beginner might say it. What are you doing today? Now listen to it with natural native stress. What are you doing today? Do you hear how are almost disappears, how the emphasis lands hard on doing and today? Let's practice together. Slowly first. What are you doing today? Now, with natural stress and a bit faster. What are you doing today? Let's try another one, connected directly to our lesson's vocabulary. She was completely unflappable. Said slowly and evenly. She was completely unflappable. Now, with natural stress, emphasizing the key content words. She was completely unflappable. Try that with me now, exaggerating the stressed syllables just slightly so your mouth learns the pattern. She was completely unflappable. Now, let's talk about connected speech specifically. One of the biggest gaps between textbook English and real spoken English. When two words meet and the first word ends in a consonant sound while the next word starts with a vowel sound, B. Native speakers often link them together smoothly, almost as if they're one word. Let's take the phrase, brush it off, again. Written down, it looks like 3 separate words. Spoken naturally, it becomes almost one sound. Brush it off. Here's another very common example. How are you becomes in fast casual speech something close to how are you, and even further relaxed, almost hoya, in very casual contexts. Let's practice the full spectrum. Slow and clear, how are you? Natural conversational speed, how are you? Very fast and casual, how ya? Let's apply this to one more phrase from today's lesson. Keep it up. Slowly. Keep it up. Naturally connected. Keep it up. Almost one flowing word. Try saying, you're doing great. Keep it up. At a natural connected pace right now. Now, let's talk about intonation, specifically the rise and fall pattern of your voice, because this affects how confident, curious, or certain you sound, sometimes even more than your word choice does. In English, when you ask a yes or no question, your voice typically rises at the end. Are you coming to the meeting? Notice the pitch lifting upward on meeting. But when you make a confident statement, your voice typically falls at the end, dropping down to show certainty and closure. I'm coming to the meeting. Notice how the pitch drops on meeting this time. This small difference, rising versus falling, is one of the reasons. Some learners accidentally sound uncertain even when they're making a statement. Because their intonation rises at the end like a question, signaling doubt even when their words are confident. Let's practice this contrast together. Say this as a question. With rising intonation, are you ready? Now say it as a confident statement with falling intonation. I'm ready. One more pair. Question. Rising. Is the report finished? Statement. Falling. The report is finished. Now, I want to teach you the real technique of shadowing, because I mentioned this word earlier, but haven't fully explained it yet. And it's one of the fastest ways to train your mouth and your ear to work together. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it back immediately, almost like an echo, trying to copy not just the words, but the rhythm, the stress, the connected speech, and the intonation all at the same time, with almost no gap between hearing and speaking. Speaking. This is different from simple repeat after me practice, where you wait for a pause. In true shadowing, you're speaking practically on top of what you hear, training your brain to process and produce English simultaneously, which is exactly what happens in real fast conversation. Let's practice this right now with 3 sentences from today's lesson. I'll say each sentence once, and I want you to shadow it, repeating it back as quickly and closely as you can, matching my rhythm exactly. First sentence. She stayed composed under pressure. Shadow it now. Second sentence. His voice didn't falter once. Shadow it now. Third sentence. Just brush it off and keep going. Shadow it now. If that felt difficult, that's completely normal. Shadowing is a skill that improves with repetition. And even doing it for just 5 minutes a day with any English audio you enjoy will noticeably improve your rhythm within a few weeks. Let's take a short, calmer moment here before we continue into our next block of content. I want you to relax your shoulders for a second. Take one slow breath in and let it out. Good. This lesson is intentionally long and dense because we want to give you real depth, not just a shallow list of words, but I also want to respect your energy. So let's ease back into things gently. In your mind, or quietly out loud, describe the room you're currently sitting in using simple sensory language just to reset your English brain for a moment. Something like, there's a lamp beside me, I can hear a fan running, the room feels quiet and calm right now. Take a moment to do that now. Good. Now let's move into our next major vocabulary block, focused on how confident, capable people are described in professional and personal contexts, especially around competence and credibility. The word credible describes someone or something believable and trustworthy. If you sound credible, people trust that what you're saying is accurate and well-founded. Example, her data-driven approach made her argument far more credible than her competitors, who relied mostly on opinions. Pronunciation. Credible. Stress on the first syllable. Practice with me. Credible. In a sentence, you need solid evidence to sound credible in a debate. You need solid evidence to sound credible in a debate. Related to this is authoritative, describing someone who speaks with confidence and expertise in a way that makes others naturally listen and trust their judgment. This is a slightly stronger, more commanding version of credible. Example, the doctor's authoritative tone immediately put the worried family at ease. They could tell she knew exactly what she was doing. Let's pronounce it carefully because it's a longer word. Authoritative. The primary stress is on the second syllable, T-O-R. Practice slowly with me. Authoritative. Now a little faster. Authoritative. Full sentence. He has such an authoritative way of explaining complex topics. He has such an authoritative way of explaining complex topics. Let's add competent, a slightly more understated but essential word describing someone who has the necessary skill or knowledge to do something well, reliably, without unnecessary drama. Example: she's extremely competent under pressure. You never have to worry when she's handling something important. Pronunciation: come, pay, tent. Stress on the first syllable. Practice with me. Competent. Competent. Now let's build all three of these words into one natural, flowing sentence, the kind a confident speaker might actually say in a real conversation. Listen first. He's competent, credible, and genuinely authoritative when he speaks. Now say it with me at a natural, connected pace, letting the words flow together smoothly rather than sounding like a robotic list. Let's build a third robotic list, a full role-play scenario now, this time set in a job interview, because interviews are exactly the kind of high-pressure situation where all of today's vocabulary becomes genuinely useful. Picture the scene. You're sitting across from an interviewer in a bright office. A glass of water in front of you. Your resume printed on the table between you. Let's begin. Interviewer: tell me about a time you had to recover from a mistake at work. You pause and answer this out loud, in your own words, trying to use at least one word from today's lesson, like resilient, composed, or brushed it off. Interviewer: that's a great example. And how would your coworkers describe your personality? You pause and answer out loud, trying to naturally include a word like approachable, personable, or gregarious. Interviewer: perfect. Last question. Why should we choose you over other candidates? You pause and give a confident, persuasive answer out loud, trying to sound articulate and credible. That's a full, realistic interview exchange. And if you actually spoke your answers out loud, rather than just reading along silently, you just completed genuine, valuable speaking practice, the exact kind that builds real fluency over time, far more effectively than passive listening alone. Let's add a few more essential words before we move toward the second half of this lesson. The word self-assured describes someone who is confident in their own abilities and judgment. Miki, without needing constant reassurance from others. It's very close to poised, which we learned earlier, but self-assured focuses more specifically on inner confidence rather than outward calm behavior. Example: even as a junior employee, she was remarkably self-assured, never afraid to share her ideas in meetings full of senior staff. Pronunciation: self-assured. The stress lands on sured. Practice with me. Self-assured. In a sentence, confidence isn't arrogance. It's simply being self-assured. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's simply being self-assured. Let's contrast this with a word describing the opposite feeling: apprehensive. To feel apprehensive means to feel worried or nervous about something that's about to happen. usually because of uncertainty about the outcome. Example: I was pretty apprehensive before my first presentation in English, but it went far better than I expected. Pronunciation: apprehensive. Stress on the third syllable. Hen. Practice with me. Apprehensive. Full sentence. It's completely normal. It's feel. To feel apprehensive before speaking a new language in public. It's completely normal to feel apprehensive before speaking a new language in public. Here's a small, encouraging self-practice moment. I want you to think honestly for just a second about a real situation in your life where you've felt apprehensive about speaking English. Maybe a work call, a trip, a video like this one. Now, say out loud, in your own words, a sentence describing that feeling and how you handled it, or how you hope to handle it differently after practicing today. This kind of personal, honest reflection spoken out loud is exactly how new vocabulary becomes part of your real, active English, rather than just something you recognize passively while watching a video. You're doing genuinely excellent work so far. We've now covered more than 25 advanced C1 to C2 expressions, 3 full role-play scenarios, and several core pronunciation and listening techniques, including connected speech, sentence stress, intonation, shadowing, and listening for gist. And we still have quite a bit ahead of us, including more vocabulary around handling difficult conversations, a deeper look at professional confidence in emails and calls, another shadowing round, our full sensory self-practice exercise, and the big fluency round at the end, where we'll rapid-fire review everything from today. Type 1 now, if you're ready to continue, and we'll pick up exactly where we left off. Let's continue building on the theme of professional confidence, moving now into vocabulary, specifically about handling difficult conversations, disagreements, and moments where you need to hold your ground without becoming aggressive or defensive. The first word here is assertive. Being assertive means expressing your opinions, needs, or boundaries clearly and confidently, while still respecting the other person. It's the healthy middle ground between being passive, staying silent when you disagree, and being aggressive, pushing your opinion too forcefully. Example sentence: she learned to be more assertive in meetings, speaking up early instead of waiting until the end when it was too late to change anything. Let's pronounce it as assertive. The stress falls on the second syllable, and that sir part rhymes with her. Practice with me. Assertive. Now a bit faster. Assertive. In a full sentence, you can disagree respectfully and still be assertive about it. You can disagree respectfully and still be assertive about it. Let's build a phrase around this word that you can genuinely use in real professional situations. When you want to disagree politely but firmly, native speakers often say, "I see it a little differently," instead of a blunt, "I disagree," or an overly soft, Maybe you're right, but let's practice this exact phrase together with a calm, steady, assertive tone, not aggressive, not apologetic. I see it a little differently. One more time, a bit more naturally, with the words linking together smoothly. I see it a little differently. Next word. Firm. In the sense of being firm about a decision or a boundary. Steady, unmovable, but not harsh. Example. He was firm about the deadline. No amount of negotiating was going to change it, but he explained his reasoning calmly rather than just refusing. Pronunciation is simple here, just one syllable. But let's make sure the vowel sound is correct. Not farm, but firm, with that short sound, like in bird or word. Practice with me, firm. In a sentence, stay firm, but stay kind. Stay firm, but stay kind. Let's add diplomatic pushback. A phrase rather than a single word, but one that's genuinely useful in real workplace English. This describes politely disagreeing with someone or resisting a request, especially from someone with authority, without damaging the relationship. Example, it's when her manager suggested an unrealistic timeline, she offered some diplomatic pushback, explaining exactly why it wouldn't work and proposing an alternative. Let's practice a full, useful sentence you could genuinely use in a meeting. I understand the urgency, but I don't think that timeline is realistic. Here's what I'd suggest instead. Let's practice that sentence together, slowly first, then at a natural, confident pace. I understand the urgency, but I don't think that timeline is realistic. Here's what I'd suggest instead. Now let's move into a visualization and dialogue built entirely around this idea of respectful disagreement, because it's one of the most nerve-wracking situations for English learners, specifically disagreeing with someone in a second language can feel doubly intimidating. Picture this scene. It's the middle of the afternoon, and you're in a video call. 5 small faces on your screen, including your team lead, who has just proposed moving the entire project deadline forward by 2 weeks. Something you know the team genuinely cannot manage. Let's begin team lead. So I think if we all push a little harder, we can have this ready 2 weeks earlier than planned. You pause, then respond out loud with diplomatic pushback, disagreeing respectfully but clearly. Team lead. I hear you, but leadership is really pushing for this. Is there any way to make it work? You pause, then respond again, staying firm but offering an alternative like a partial delivery or extra resources. Team lead. Okay, that's a fair point. Let's go with your suggestion instead. You pause and respond naturally, perhaps confirming next steps. That was a 4-turn exchange. Exactly the kind of longer, realistic conversation you'll actually face in professional English. Not just short textbook exchanges. Nice work pushing through that. Let's add one more word before we shift topics. Measured. Used to describe speech or a response that is careful, controlled, and thoughtful rather than emotional or impulsive. Example, even though the accusation was completely unfair, his response was measured and calm, which actually made him look more credible, not less. Pronunciation, me-a-ssured. Stress on the first syllable, and that middle sound is like zhur, similar to composure. Practice with me, measured. In a sentence, a measured response is often more powerful than an emotional one. A measured response is often more powerful than an emotional one. Now, let's turn our attention specifically to spoken confidence in emails, phone calls, and voice messages, because this is a huge, often overlooked area of professional English. So many learners can write reasonably well, but freeze up the moment they have to leave a voicemail or join a call unprepared. Let's build some vocabulary and phrases specifically for this. The word succinct is closely related to concise, which we learned earlier, but succinct specifically emphasizes brevity, saying exactly what needs to be said in the fewest possible words with nothing wasted. Example, keep your voicemail succinct. State your name, your reason for calling, and your callback number, then stop. Pronunciation. Succinct. The stress is on the second syllable. Practice with me. Succinct. In a sentence, succinct email gets read. A long one gets ignored. A succinct email gets read. A long one gets ignored. Let's practice an actual voicemail script together. Because this is real, usable spoken English. Imagine you're calling a colleague who didn't pick up. A confident, succinct voicemail might sound like this. Hi, it's me, just following up on the report. Give me a call back when you get a chance. Thanks. Let's break this down for connected speech, because voicemails spoken quickly by natives can be genuinely hard to understand if your ear isn't trained. Notice how give me a call often becomes gim a call in fast, casual speech, and when you get a chance compresses into something closer to when ya get a chance. Let's practice the full message slowly first, then at natural speed. Slowly. Hi, it's me. Just following up on the report. Give me a call back when you get a chance. Thanks. Now at natural connected speed. Hi, it's me. Just following up on the report. Give me a call back when you get a chance. Thanks. Try recording that in your own voice later today. If you can, even just once, because reading a script out loud is completely different from actually recreating that rhythm from memory. Let's add the word proactive here as well, since it connects naturally to confident, forward-thinking communication. Being proactive means taking action or communicating before a problem happens, rather than only reacting after something goes wrong. Example, instead of waiting for the client to ask about the delay, she proactively sent an update explaining the situation and the new timeline. Pronunciation, proactive. Stress on the second syllable. Practice with me, proactive. In a sentence, Being proactive about problems makes you look far more competent than staying silent and hoping no one notices. Being proactive about problems makes you look far more competent than staying silent and hoping no one notices. Let's do a quick fluency and confidence check-in here with a rapid response drill, similar to what we did earlier, but now specifically pulling from this newer vocabulary. I'll say a short prompt, and I want you to respond immediately, out loud, without overthinking your grammar, focusing purely on speaking without hesitation. Ready? First prompt. Describe a time you had to be assertive. Respond now. Second prompt. Describe someone you know who seems very self-assured. Respond now. Third prompt. Describe a moment you felt apprehensive but pushed through it anyway. Respond now. That kind of rapid-fire response practice trains your brain to access vocabulary quickly under light pressure, which is exactly the skill you need in real conversations, where you don't get unlimited time to plan your sentence before speaking. Let's move now into a slightly different but closely connected theme. Emotional vocabulary, specifically words for describing how you feel in high-stakes moments, both the difficult feelings and the rewarding ones that come after you push through them. The word daunting describes something that feels intimidating or overwhelming, especially a task or challenge that feels almost too big to handle. Example: public speaking felt incredibly daunting to her at first, but after months of practice, it became one of her favorite parts of the job. Pronunciation: daunting. Stress on the first syllable, and that ah sound is like the ah in law. Practice with me. Daunting. In a sentence, learning a new language can feel daunting at the beginning, but it gets easier every single day you practice. Learning a new language can feel daunting at the beginning, but it gets easier every single day you practice. Now, the reward on the other side of daunting: exhilarating. This word describes an intense feeling of excitement, thrill, and energy, often after doing something challenging or slightly frightening. Example: finishing her first English presentation felt absolutely exhilarating. All that nervous energy suddenly turned into pure excitement. Pronunciation: exhil, A rating. Stress on the second syllable. This word is genuinely tricky, so let's slow it down completely. Hill, A rating. Now blend it together. Exhilarating. One more time at natural speed. Exhilarating. In a sentence, stepping outside your comfort zone can be exhilarating. Once you push through the initial fear, stepping outside your comfort zone can be exhilarating. Once you push through the initial fear. Let's connect daunting and exhilarating in one meaningful sentence, because this pairing captures something genuinely true about learning English, or really, learning anything difficult. Listen first. It felt daunting at first, but honestly, by the end, it was exhilarating. Now say that sentence with me, focusing on natural rhythm and the contrast between the two emotional words. Let's introduce one more word here. Empowering. Something empowering makes you feel stronger, more capable, and more confident in your own abilities, often by giving you new skills or a new perspective. Example, learning to handle difficult conversations calmly has been incredibly empowering for her, both at work and in her personal life. Pronunciation. Po, earring. Stress on the second syllable, and po sounds exactly like the word po, like a comic book sound effect. Practice with me. Empowering. In a sentence, I hope today's lesson feels empowering, not overwhelming. I hope today's lesson feels empowering, not overwhelming. Let's do our second shadowing round now, this time using slightly longer, more natural sentences pulled directly from today's vocabulary so you can practice matching rhythm and connected speech on more complex material. I'll say each sentence once at natural native speed, and I want you to shadow it immediately, repeating as closely as you can to my rhythm and intonation. Not waiting, just echoing right on top of it. First sentence. It felt daunting at first, but by the end, it was exhilarating. Shadow it now. Second sentence. She stayed firm, but she stayed kind. Shadow it now. Third sentence. A measured response is more powerful than an emotional one. Shadow it now. Fourth sentence, a bit longer this time. Even when the numbers were wrong, she stayed composed, corrected herself, and kept going without missing a beat. Shadow it now. If you found that last one difficult, try it 2 or 3 times. Shadowing longer sentences is genuinely one of the fastest ways to train your mouth for real conversational speed. And it gets noticeably easier with repetition. Let's move now into a full self-practice exercise using your senses, exactly the kind of exercise that turns passive vocabulary into active automatic English you can use without thinking. I want you to pause for a moment and actually look around wherever you are right now. Notice one thing you can see, one thing you can hear, and how you're currently feeling, and describe all 3 out loud in English, trying naturally to include at least one word from today's lesson if it fits. For example, you might say something like, "What? There's a cup on my desk. I can hear traffic outside. And honestly, I'm feeling pretty empowered after this lesson." Take a moment now and say your own version out loud. This type of practice matters more than most learners realize. Please realize, because it trains you to use English spontaneously, connected to your real immediate environment, rather than only inside memorized, rehearsed sentences. The goal isn't to sound perfect in this exercise. The goal is simply to keep your mouth moving and your brain generating English in real time without translating first. Let's add a few more high-value words before we move toward our final stretch of vocabulary and the big fluency round. The word credible we already covered, but let's add its close cousin, compelling. Something compelling is so interesting, convincing, or powerful that it holds your attention and makes you want to agree or keep listening. You might describe an argument, a story, or a presentation as compelling. Example: her presentation wasn't just informative, it was genuinely compelling. Nobody checked their phone once. Pronunciation: compelling. Stress on the second syllable. Practice with me. Compelling. In a sentence, a compelling story beats a boring list of facts every single time. A compelling story beats a boring list of facts every single time. Let's add engaging as well, a word describing something that holds attention and makes people feel involved and interested. Example. He has such an engaging way of explaining complicated topics, even people outside the industry find themselves genuinely interested. Pronunciation: engaging. Stress on the second syllable. Practice with me. Engaging. Now let's combine compelling and engaging in a natural sentence. The best speakers aren't just informative. They're compelling and engaging at the same time. Let's say that sentence together at a natural pace. Let's do a fourth full role play scenario now, this time set in a very common but genuinely intimidating situation for many English learners. A client call where something has gone wrong and you need to communicate the problem clearly, calmly, and confidently without sounding panicked or overly apologetic. Picture the scene. You're on a video call with an important client. There's been a shipping delay, and you need to be the one to tell them. Let's begin. Client: hi, I'm calling because our shipment still hasn't arrived, and it was supposed to be here 2 days ago. You: pause, then respond out loud, calmly explaining the delay, staying composed and measured, not overly apologetic. Client: okay, I understand things happen, but what's the new timeline and how are you going to prevent this next time? You: pause, then respond again, giving a clear, confident, proactive answer with a specific plan. Client: all right, that sounds reasonable. I appreciate you being upfront about it. You: pause and respond naturally, perhaps thanking them for their patience. Notice how that entire conversation stayed calm and professional without a single dramatic apology or defensive excuse. Just clear, composed, honest communication. That's genuinely the heart of everything we've been building throughout this entire lesson. Let's add 2 final words to round out this vocabulary section before we move into our fluency round. The first is grounded, describing someone who stays calm, sensible, and connected to reality, even when things get stressful or exciting. The opposite of getting carried away emotionally in either direction. Example: even after the huge promotion, she stayed remarkably grounded, still showing up early and treating everyone the same way she always had. Pronunciation: grounded. Stress on the first syllable. Practice with me. Grounded. In a sentence, staying grounded under pressure is a skill you can absolutely build with practice. Staying grounded under pressure is a skill you can absolutely build with practice. The second final word is authentic. Being authentic means being genuine and true to yourself, rather than performing or pretending to be someone you're not, even while being professional and confident. Example: the most persuasive speakers aren't the ones who sound the most polished. They're the ones who sound the most authentic. Pronunciation: O-then-tic. Stress on the second syllable. Practice with me. Authentic in a sentence. Confidence doesn't mean hiding who you are. It means being authentic while staying composed. Confidence doesn't mean hiding who you are. It means being authentic while staying composed. You've now learned an enormous amount of genuinely useful, high-level vocabulary today, more than 40 distinct words and expressions, all built around one connected theme, all practiced in real context, real dialogue, and real pronunciation drills, not just isolated definitions. Nice work getting this far. We're heading now into the final stretch of today's lesson. A few more essential words connected to lasting impressions and long-term confidence. One more shadowing and listening round, focused specifically on connected speech patterns you'll hear constantly in real native conversation. And then our full fluency round, where we rapid-fire review everything you've learned today in quick succession, followed by your specific challenge for practicing this outside the video. Type 1 now, and let's finish this lesson strong. Let's finish today's vocabulary with a small final set of words connected to long-term impressions, the kind of confidence that lasts well beyond a single conversation or presentation. The word consistent describes someone who behaves the same reliable way over time, not just confident in one meeting, but confident, composed, and genuine every single day. Example: what really builds trust isn't one great presentation. It's being consistent, showing up prepared and steady week after week. Pronunciation: consistent. Stress on the second syllable. Practice with me. Consistent. In a sentence: consistency builds more credibility than a single brilliant moment ever could. Consistency builds more credibility than a single brilliant moment ever could. Next, polished. Describing something refined, smooth, and professional, often used for a presentation, a piece of writing, or someone's overall communication style. Example: after months of practice, her presentations became noticeably more polished, smoother transitions, cleaner slides, and far more confident delivery. Pronunciation: polished. Stress on the first syllable. Practice with me. Polished. In a sentence: your English doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to sound polished and clear. Your English doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to sound polished and clear. And our final word for today: genuine. Describing something real, sincere, and honest without any pretending or performance. Example: people trust genuine confidence far more than performed confidence. They can almost always tell the difference. Pronunciation: gen-u-in. Stress on the first syllable. Practice with me. Genuine. Let's close this vocabulary section with one final combined sentence, bringing together several of today's biggest ideas. Listen first. Real confidence isn't about being flawless. It's about staying composed, being genuine, and recovering gracefully when things go wrong. Let's say that full sentence together now, slowly first, then at natural, connected, native speed. Let's do one more focused round of connected speech and shadowing before our fluency review, because I want this rhythm to feel natural in your mouth by the time this lesson ends, not just understood in your head. Listen to each phrase at natural speed, then shadow it immediately, echoing right on top of it. First phrase, gonna be honest with you for a second. Notice how going to compresses into gonna in natural casual speech. Shadow it now. Second phrase, what'd think about this approach? Notice how what do you compresses into something close to what'd. Shadow it now. Third phrase, I should have mentioned this earlier. Notice should have becomes shoulda. Shadow it now. These compressed forms are everywhere in real spoken English, in movies, in meetings, in casual conversation, and recognizing them instantly without having to mentally decode them is a huge part of sounding truly fluent rather than textbook fluent. Fluent. Now let's move into our fluency round, the final and most important exercise of today's lesson. I'm going to say a series of short prompts very quickly, one right after another, and I want you to respond immediately, out loud, using any word you remember from today without pausing to think too carefully. Speed and flow matter more than perfect grammar here. This is your brain's chance to prove it can access everything we've built today under a little bit of real-time pressure. Ready? Here we go. Describe someone composed under pressure. Describe a moment you felt apprehensive. Use the word resilient in a sentence. Describe someone gregarious, Use the phrase, brush it off. Describe a compelling speaker you've seen. Use the word assertive in a sentence. Describe something that felt daunting at first, but became exhilarating. Use the word authentic. Finish this sentence. Real confidence means fantastic work. If you kept your voice moving through most of those prompts, even imperfectly, even with pauses, you just completed one of the most valuable fluency exercises possible. Because real conversations move exactly like that, fast, unpredictable, and forgiving of small mistakes as long as you keep going. Here's your specific challenge for today, and I want you to actually do this, not just nod along and move on to the next video. Choose 3 words from today's lesson, the 3 that felt most useful or most personally relevant to you, and use each one in a real sentence about your own life. either out loud right now or written in the comments below this video. Maybe it's, I want to sound more articulate in meetings, or I felt really apprehensive the first time I spoke English at work, but I brushed it off and kept going. Whatever it is, make it personal, make it real, and say it or write it down, because vocabulary you actively use within 24 hours of learning, it sticks dramatically better than vocabulary you only heard once and moved past. If today's lesson helped you and you want more videos exactly like this one, built around real vocabulary, real pronunciation, and real speaking practice rather than just passive lists, make sure you subscribe to Natural Word English and press the notification bell so you never miss a new lesson. Because we publish new advanced vocabulary lessons regularly, always built around real-life context, never just isolated word lists. Thank you for showing up and actually speaking today, not just listening. That effort is exactly what separates people who genuinely improve from people who just watch. Keep practicing, stay composed, stay genuine, and I'll see you in the next lesson.